you have to cook like you're cooking for your family. Like sometimes when you come from a restaurant background or from a Michelin star background, which is, you have learned so much that you want to show people what you can do. And sometimes they don't want to see what you can do. They just want a roasted chicken and chips. And you have to be okay with that.
Welcome to the Private Chef podcast, serving the 1%. I'm your host, Hannes Henche. And on our show, we speak to the best chefs, how they honed in on their skills to excel in the industry, and what it takes to work as a private chef for some of the most exclusive clients in the world. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Private Chef podcast. Today we got to learn more about the life of a yacht chef. We're lucky to have Chris, a seasoned super yacht head chef and author of the Yacht Chef Guide, under the supervision of some of the world's most renowned chefs, such as Michel Roux at the Waterside Inn in England. He has honed his skills to Michelin star levels. Chris also found Montclair Chef, an online platform for listing yacht chef jobs. The platform has 10,000 chefs subscribed to its daily content and will soon become the world's largest yacht chef job posting board. Thank you for joining us today, Chris.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you for having me today.
So where did your love for cooking come from? What made you so curious in going into the culinary field?
So, I was born and raised in France. So I think food has always been around me. It's always been around. I mean, we had bakeries. I grew up in a village, a very small village in the center of France. And I remember just going to bakeries, going to the butcher shop and all these things. And every time you go to a place like this, they give you a little sample. They just let you taste something. And I feel like this was already in my blood when I grew up. But the way it happens is when I turned 15 years old, at the end of the first level of study that you do in France, I think you have to go to school until you're 15 or 16 years old. And after that, you have a choice. You can either go to university or you can just become an apprentice and just start, a career a bit more manual. And at that time, I was honestly really, really bored in school. I didn't find anything exciting about what they were teaching me, and that shows in my result. So. The only thing that I really was passionate, that I really liked, was actually drawing and all the artistic art of the side of the study. So I remember this meeting, and my head teacher was basically telling me and my parents, they were like, "I'm sorry, but you have to think of something else. You cannot go to university." So so I just realized that, okay, then I need to do something else, and it didn't take me too long. I really enjoyed cooking at home, and my dad was often cooking, my mom was cooking often, and it was almost a logical choice for me to just try to find a restaurant and do my apprenticeship, and that's how I started. Basically, I think I was 15 years old, so I was quite young, but started in this family-run restaurant. Lovely place. It was a good experience. I think I was very young, and I hope I did what they were expecting me to do, because I feel like at 15 you're not mature enough to be working like as an employee. But it was a very good experience. I have very good memories.
Nice. I can actually relate to everything you said about the school. I felt so disengaged in the same age period. It was one of the key reasons I also stepped out quite early before going any like legit studies and went into the culinary field. So I feel you on that. So how did you progress then? What made you go into like a Michelin star restaurant? What made you go across to England and explore the world and ultimately becoming an international chef on yachts?
Yeah, I didn't plan all of that. it really happened gradually. Basically what happened is I was just working, and my parents always told us, my brother and sister, to just work hard, and this is something they gave us, and I've always done this, and I was working very hard, and I did a few years in my hometown, probably 4 years after the apprenticeship, where I was going from a brasserie to a cafe to, a fine dining restaurant to catering company. So I did the whole scope, the different kind of restaurants. And I just realized that I was, I just wanted more. I just wanted to be able to travel. I mean, I didn't travel much as a kid, and I think this is what I was missing. And I could see, on TV, and I saw some documentaries about chefs that were, in Asia, or chefs in, in, I don't know, in Florida, everywhere in the world. And actually what happened, it's funny because I kind of planned two choices for me at that time. Two different routes. I was thinking maybe I should go to Switzerland, because Switzerland has if you're French and you look at Switzerland, you understand that these guys are getting paid more for the same work they produce. And I was just trying to, honestly, because I don't mind working hard, and I don't mind working on weekends and evenings and holidays. And of course, my personal life had suffered at that time from this. But I just wanted to get the reward from it. And working in restaurants in France anywhere in the world, it's a hard job. But if you can go somewhere else, if you can actually take your bag and go somewhere else and, work as hard for someone else or somewhere else and just get paid more. This was the first motivation, I have to say. So that was my first choice.
Yeah.
And my second option in my head was to actually go to England. And the reason for that is because I didn't speak any English. I mean, I had the little English they gave me in school. They tried to teach me in school. So that was the two options. And I remember seeing a friend, and he was actually coming back from England, and he was a little bit older than me. He was also a chef. And I just asked him, I said, what do you think? Should I go to Switzerland or should I go to England? And without hesitation, he said, go to England. He said, it's going to be more fun, it's going to be more interesting, and it's going to be way more rewarding. And so this is what I did. I remember applying for this chef's agency in France. This guy was working with a few restaurants in the UK. And I just told him, I'm looking for a job. Do you have anything? And it was pretty fast, actually. Within 2 weeks, I think he found me a job. And I jumped on a plane, first time in my life. I think I was around 20 years old, maybe 21. Got on a plane, went to London, did everything I could to try to catch a train to make myself understood, because obviously I didn't speak English. And I remember the lady at the train station being so... she didn't have much patience for me. But anyway, I found my way. I found the bus. I got on a bus, and I started in a restaurant in the UK. It was in the north of England. Long story short, the place was not really for me. Called the agency. I said, do you have anything else? Because it's too cold. There's nothing around. I'm not happy here. And he found me something else that was actually on the south coast of England. It was in Poole, in Dorset, and that was right on the south coast. And I went there, and this was a lot better. There was a bit more sun. I just felt more happy in this place. And I spent about 9 months in that English. So it was a hotel, pub, traditional English. There was no way for me to speak any French. So in 9 months, I think I acquired most of my English at that time. I was just watching TV, speaking in English, listening English, starting reading books in English, and my goal was to speak English. And as soon as I got that, I saw that I had to do something else, because I was very, very happy with the way I was getting better with English, and I was able to communicate with them. But the food was not really exciting me. It was. I'm very happy I did it, because I learned all the traditional dishes, of England, and Sunday roast, and the things that are very, very classic and very important for all of the country and all of British people. So I'm happy I got it, because I think I still use it here now today sometimes. But I was missing that passion that I could see in France, and because I wanted to reinforce my level of English, I started reading books. And I remember the first book I read was the French Laundry by Thomas Keller, which was I was amazed by the
Nice.
passion that he put into into the story, into the books, and everything he said, from, the selection of the produce and how they prepare it and the time you spend, and this old lady that will do this. And this was really passion for me. And I really enjoyed reading the book. And second book I read, I remember going to the library and I found this book about, from Michel Roux. That was his autobiography. And I knew the Roux brothers because in France, my last head chef was, he used to work for, in many Michelin star restaurants all around Paris and the south of France. So he knew about the Roux brothers and what they did, or at least a little bit. They were not famous in France, but some chefs would really know who they were. So I read the book, from start to finish. I think I read it in a few days and I was like, wow, this guy's done so much. Like it was the first time I realized as a chef, you can accomplish, or you can touch so many people, because I don't know if you know the story about Michel Roux, but him and his brother went to the UK I think he was in the 60s. Maybe it's not exactly the 60s, maybe the 70s, but I think it was the 60s. And they opened that restaurant and they were the first to get 1 star and the first to get 2 star and the first to get 3 stars. And from then Michel, left and opened his own restaurant where he got 3 stars as well, 3 Michelin stars. And after that, he was just, he got to cook for the Queen every year. He got to, he was the guy that designed the menu on the Concorde, which was, the iconic plane. I mean, I still have they haven't done anything better since they stopped flying it, but, and, he went to the Kremlin and according to his book, he was the first foreign chef after 300 years to actually get into the Kremlin to cook for Boris Yeltsin. So all of this was incredible. It was just incredible what I could hear. And so what I did is I just looked up online and I found that the Waterside Inn was not too far from where I was working. So I just sent an email. I sent my CV and I said, I read the book and, I would love to come and visit. And maybe if you have a job for me, I can show you that I can work hard, basically. And within a few days, I got a phone call from Chef Alain Roux, the son of Michel, who was the head chef at the time. And super nice guy. Honestly, he is genuinely very nice. And he was just, already welcoming by just saying, if you can just come and do a trial with us, that would be amazing. And I started like this. I went for a trial, went back to the restaurant because I hadn't resigned yet. Went back to the restaurant and, he gave me a job. And, from there, I spent a year and a half at the Waterside Inn. I did pretty much all the sections. Pastry, you name it. I mean, the fish, the pastry, the canapes, the veggies, the cold kitchen. It was an incredible adventure. It was really incredible. And it's not something that I had planned because in my head, I really didn't want to work in a violent kitchen. From hearing some of your podcasts, some of the interviews you have done, I think you have experienced that.
Yeah.
The kitchen where the head chef is just not nice. I mean, I don't mind working hard and I really like working hard, but this was not what I had found at the Waterside. It was more like a family. And even though we were working really, really hard, everyone was just driven and motivated and passionate. And that was incredible.
I think this is like how you wanted to be, like in a perfect world where people, out of their love and curiosity for what they do, the passion for what they do, they become really good, rather than because they're like aggressive or very, very hard on each other to get there.
Yeah, I do understand now. Maybe with more maturity, I can understand why. And I don't think they mean to be violent, or they don't mean to be pushing people that hard, but they just have so much pressure on their shoulders from, the guidebook, from the customers, from the owner of the financial partner in the restaurant. And if the head chef had this, he's going to put it on the sous chef, and the sous chef is going to put it on the, chef de parties. And this thing just stays, this environment, this pressure is you can feel it every day. So this was something that is it was hard for me, and it was, even though the kitchen was very nice and everyone, it was like a big family. So this was not a problem, but this pressure was, I would go home and dream about making my preps and my mise en place at night, and I never had enough time. My sleeps were pretty much, full of mise en place. This is what I would dream about.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was so hard to control. So after this, I did a year and a half at these 3 stars, and it was enough for me. It was not my first job, and I had worked in many restaurants before, so I really changed the way I was cooking. I went from, I almost erased everything I knew before I started at the waterside, and learned everything again, and that was incredible. So that was an amazing experience. And after that, I resigned, and I say, okay, let's see what happened. And I remember applying for so many different jobs. I mean, now that I had acquired English, I was ready to go anywhere. So I applied in Asia, in the US, in anywhere. Honestly, I think I remember I probably applied for 50 or 60 different jobs from all over the world. And there was one that I did not pay too much attention, but I got an email one day from this captain saying, hi Chris, I'm the captain on a 55-meter yacht. We're cruising around the Mediterranean in the summer. We do Caribbean in the winter. We're looking for a sous chef. Would you be interested to come for an interview? And I said, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That sounds amazing. I mean, sounds like something I've never thought of, because you have to remember, I come from the center of France. I mean, the closest sea from me is Brittany, is the Atlantic. So there is not many yachts around there. So long story short, I got on a plane. He got me a ticket. I went to meet them in Nice. First time I saw the Mediterranean Sea, so I was already excited. And then I get to this boat that was a 55-meter yacht, which is nowadays it's not very big. It becomes a small one nowadays, but at the time it was and it's still a very, very big boat. I mean, we're talking about this boat. We had 16 crew on the boat. We had a head chef. I was hired to be the sous chef, and it was day and night. So I got a tour of the boat. Captain showed me around, told me everything about the cruising, period. So that was, like I was saying, start in April, May, and you do the south of France, all around Italy, maybe a bit of Greece, Croatia, all of this. And then you go back to Monaco or to, again, the south of France at the end of the summer season, get ready, load up the boat, then cross the Atlantic, and then start the Caribbean season. And that's how I started. And, he asked me, he said, do you want the job? And I, of course, the salary on offer was also, at the time, I remember it was, because there was something when I was in France, is that I remember I was watching a documentary on TV about this very famous pastry chef. This guy was the best pastry chef in France. And I think they were asking him about his income and his salary, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm making this much money." And in my head, I was thinking, this guy is the best in France, and what he does is incredible, and he's only making that much money. And I'm thinking, there's probably a chance I will never be as good as him, even if I try. I mean, I can try, but I mean, to get to that level and get so little reward, financial reward, it was not interesting for me. So then when I went on this boat and I got into the interview, I realized that basically being on the boat, you could have, less stress. You could have, because the equipment that we have on board boats or yachts in general, you often get the best there is. And if something is damaged, there is a budget for it. And if you need to go on a training, there is a budget for it. And the salary are higher than in the restaurant. And the food cost, there is barely any food cost. I mean, if we talk about crew food, there is a cost that is allocated per month per crew. But when we're cooking for guests or for the owners of the boat, it's pretty much, it can be unlimited. And this is something that, we're not in the industry of making money. We're in the industry of creating memories and keeping the owners and the guest or the charter guest happy. And this, there's no cost attached to that. So this is really incredible. And this is why I realized that this was what I wanted to do. And I was very, very fortunate because so that first boat I was on, I was working as a sous chef. So again, I was given a chance to start on the boat, and I learned so much from the head chef. I don't think I could have done it the same way if I was hired as a sous chef, as a head chef straight away on the boat, because there is so many things that are different. So many things that are different than working in a restaurant.
Yeah, and there's something about working with somebody who's really experienced. Like just yesterday, I spent some time with one of my friends, and he spent 10 years in 3 Michelin star restaurants, and we were just cooking casually at home. But in 30 minutes, I picked up a couple small things, that if I would have tried to learn it by myself, it would have taken me so much time. So it's just amazing to have peers or mentors in the space that also dedicated their life to it, because you can just learn from their experience and stack on that and build on that and grow so much faster.
Absolutely. This is what I realized as well. Is another advantage of being on the boat is that not everybody is the same, but if you found a boat that actually care for the crew and care for the training of the crew, they would allocate a budget per year, or they would say, if you go and do this training, you can pay for it, and we give it back to you at the end of the season. So one way, it keeps you on board and it keeps you motivated to stay on the boat, and you get to learn incredible things. And these little tips that you're talking about, it's exactly what I feel as a chef. Is that if I go for a training, no matter if it's for a day or for 5 days or a month, sometimes you're gonna pick up one thing, but that one thing is priceless. That little tip that you may have seen like different recipes, or you've written old recipes, but there's like 1 or 2 things that you're gonna just pick up and put in your pocket, and this is the thing that you don't need to look into the book to get it back, because these little tips are so important.
Yeah. So then in that particular job, that was your first gig on the boat. How long did you stay, and why did you fall in love with it so much that you basically spend the majority of your career on yachts now?
Yes, true. Because for all the reasons I mentioned before, I feel like you have more room to express yourself on a boat as a chef, because I worked in restaurant where, first of all, you have to be, you're under pressure to make everything so fast, and you may not have the space, you may not have the tools, you may not have the budget, and this teaches you a lot of things, but I don't think it teaches you creativity, or it doesn't let you express what you want to do as a chef. When on the boat, first it's important to look at how yachting works, or how being a chef on the boat works, because there's 2 parts. There's the part where you're gonna cook for the crew. So if you're a sous chef, or if you're a sole chef, you're gonna have to cook for the crew. And the thing that we do for crew is it's so far from staff food. Like when I remember what we were doing in restaurant for staff, it was shocking. It was shocking because it was made so fast and with so much leftovers. And there's nothing wrong about using leftovers, don't get me wrong, but it was just so crew food on the boat. It's not that. I mean, you're gonna get on if we talk about a boat that is 50 to 80 meters, you're gonna get anywhere from 12 to 20 crew, and these crew, they live and they work on the boat, which means they wake up from their cabin, they go into the crew mess, and this is where they have breakfast. They go to work and they come back to the crew mess, and this is where they're gonna eat their lunch. And you are part of this group, and they a lot of time, if you are at anchor or if you're during the season and you have guests on, first of all, everyone is under pressure to please the guests and to make the best trip they possibly can. So the food is so important for the crew. Like, it's something that at the beginning maybe I didn't quite understood, but now I realize that these guys, they need a good variety. And when you have 15, 20 people that you cook for every day for weeks at a time, you're gonna have to make something for everyone. And you can't do it every day, but you can try. And that means that you have to serve 3, 4, 5, 6 different dishes of food every meal. Again, depends. If you're on a small boat and it's only 3, 4 crew, you might do a little bit. If you're on a boat with 20, 30 crew, you will do a lot more. And this is one side of the job, which is, it's like cooking for your family, basically. It's trying to keep them happy. And if you manage that, it's amazing, because, they're just gonna come by your kitchen every day, your galley, and they're just gonna tell you how good the food was, and you get a direct feedback from these guys. And the other side of the job is cooking for the guest, which is it's incredible as well. I mean, you get to sorry.
Yeah, you can directly impact the mood and the spirit on the boat. Like, if you keep everybody happy, people will feel like they're fed well, and that will just ripple into everybody's work in the day, and probably also takes care of the client, because if people feel like they're well taken care of by you, then they will go out and they know they ate well, or they're looking forward to their meal, which kind of sets the spirit on the boat.
100%, 100%. And it's, like you said, and you have to also take care of them. You have to make sure it's healthy enough, but it's also, sometimes you need to do comfort food, but you have to do the right thing for them. But they will tell you. They usually tell you if you have a good relationship with them, if you are open. Because I found that sometimes chef, especially if you come from a restaurant background, you're not used to be facing your customers all the time. And I'm sure you can understand that, because when you become a private chef, this is a different job. You have to be front and back of house. And it's something that they didn't teach you in cooking school. And it's something that it takes time. It takes a lot of time to be good at it. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get the right way of doing it. But yeah, 100%. The crew is so important. You got to look after them, and they will look after you in the same way. Because on the boat, the energy, it's all connected. I mean, you have the girls or the interior staff they're taking care of the cabin, they're doing the service, they're doing the laundry, and then you have the exterior team, which is usually the guys. They drive the tenders, they would take care of the outside of the boat. They would, and all of these guys, they will, when you have a provision coming, and depending on the side of the boat, you could spend hours getting the stuff on board when you have big provisions for the galley, for your kitchen. And this is when you see if you take care of them, because they're gonna show up and they're gonna help you, and they're gonna be very happy to help you to bring everything on board. When if you're not taking care of them, this is when you're gonna realize there's not many people on the boat to help you to load all the stuff on board. No, but generally,
suddenly you'll find yourself by yourself if the cooking wasn't good.
yeah. No, but it's just something that I say to if I speak to a young chef that wants to know more about the yachting industry, first thing I say, take care of the crew. This is so important, because these guys, they work very hard, and like I said, they're like us, like me, they don't go home. You leave, you work, and you play on the boat, but there's not a lot of time to play during the season. So yeah, the food is so important. So you have to make sure, once a week you're gonna give these guys some homemade burgers, and once a week you may do sushi, and once a week you're gonna do pizza, and you're gonna have your pasta lunch, and you're gonna have your meat pies for dinner for all the Aussie, all the Kiwi guys on board, or you're gonna have Sunday roast for the Brits. You're gonna have, I don't know, like there's so much you can do, and then you just throw a little bit of Asian food in the middle, and usually everyone's happy.
Yeah, nice. So for someone who is coming out of the restaurant right now, and here's you talk about yachting. Where do they start? Like, what's their way in? What kind of certificates do they need to pick up? What do they need to learn to become a legit yacht chef?
So for anyone that wants to become a yacht chef, there's a couple of certificates that are essential. One of them is as simple as it's called the ENG1. It's a medical certificate that basically the doctor is going to check that you can hear, you can see, and you are fit for working on a boat. It's very basic. It's a matter of paying the appointment, and you go there. It's an hour, and then you're done. The second one is the STCW. Now, STCW is not only for chefs; it's for anyone that works on a boat. And the reason they get you to pass your STCW is it's basically to get you acquainted with the laws and the regulation, and not so much the regulation, but you're going to do some firefighting. You're going to do some survival at sea. So they just want to give you some skills, basic skills. Yeah, firefighting, crowd control, fire on a boat, just the basic stuff that you need to know to be on the boat, because once you're going to be on the boat, you're going to be part of the crew, and you're going to be part of the we run drills every week or every 2 weeks. It could be a fire drill, it could be abandoned ship, it could be man overboard drill, and all these drills, everyone has a responsibility and everyone has a task. And then when we do the drill, when it's a real case, you have to imagine that if you're at sea, you don't have the fire station on the corner, and you don't have the doctors on board, and you don't have, so the crew is very important when it comes to that point. So the STCW is extremely important. And I want to say any boat that is run properly is not going to hire you if you don't have your STCW, unless the boat does not leave the dock or there is some other reason that I don't know. But STCW is one of the essential one. So you would have to have your ENG1, the medical exam, and STCW, and those are the two certificates that you need to have. Now, before you can find a job, you're gonna have to also create a portfolio of your food, because chances are the boat may be in the south of France, the boat may be in Holland in a shipyard, it may be in the Caribbean, it may be in Tahiti, and you're not going to get a face-to-face interview with these people. I'm talking the captain or the head chef if he's looking for a sous chef, or even the management company. So the food, your food portfolio is so important, because this is the first impression, and they want to see how you can cook, and they want to see how you can present. And this is something that if you don't have one, there's very, very little chance, unless you know somebody on a boat, there's very little chance that you get a job. So to summarize, ENG1 is so important, STCW for the safety, and your photo portfolio. Those are the three things I can advise you to do. And then when it comes to finding a job, there's different ways. There is agencies, there is a whole lot of crew agent and crew agencies. You can just Google it and you type crew agency, and you'll find some in Florida, you'll find some in the south of France, in Monaco. There is some in England, and these guys are really good at finding jobs. And this is when the boat or the management company needs a crew or a chef, they will contact them, and so these agencies will do the work. And
what are some of the recommendations that you would give somebody when they come on the boat the first time, maybe for the trial?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Let's say they've never really been on the boat, but they're being considered, just like yourself, for a sous chef position. What was the challenge that you faced? Maybe it's in the equipment, maybe it's that the kitchen is so different. What are some of the things that you can give somebody on their way the first time they actually step a foot in there for a trial?
Yeah. What I've realized is, first of all, we keep the galleys and the kitchen on boats. spotless. And this is something that you don't always see in restaurants. Now, I'm not saying that restaurant kitchen are not clean. I'm just saying that you will clean at the end of your shift. Or at the end, you would do a big cleaning at the end of the week, spend hours doing it, and everyone jump on the stove and, you scrub the ceiling. And I've done this. Now, what we do on boat is different, because you pretty much always keep a level of guest readiness, which means that at any time, the guest or the owner or the management company could walk on a boat and walk through the galley or through your kitchen. And this is why you have to keep everything spotless. So this is something that is very different. So if you're a little messy, if you're not careful, like, I think it's very important to get that habit of cleaning after yourself, because what you do on the trial is what they think you will do on a daily basis. And if they have guests on, no matter if it's the owner or charter guest, it's not going to go well. That's one thing that I think you have to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to cooking, the chances are that if you start on a boat, you will probably start as a sous chef or as a crew chef. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is, cooking for the crew. You have to cook like you're cooking for your family. Like, sometimes when you come from a restaurant background or from a Michelin star background, which is, you have learned so much that you want to show people what you can do. And sometimes they don't want to see what you can do. They just want a roasted chicken and chips. And you have to be okay with that. And that's also valid for the guests. I mean, if I'm cooking or you're a head chef somewhere and you're cooking for the guests, you have to accept that these guys, if they're on board for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 3 months nonstop, that you're going to work for that whole time. And they don't want tasting menu, they don't want it every day. They may say, okay, on Friday we have some special guests that we're gonna pick up by tender, and we're gonna go at anchor with them, and we're gonna have a bit of a tasting menu for them just to show off a little bit. But a lot of times they want to eat the food that they would eat at home, or they want to eat like I said, some pizza or roasted chicken, or they might even ask you for burgers. But then the challenge is to make the best roasted chicken you can ever make, and it's to make the best burger and the best burger sauce. The patty has to be the best way possible. You cook it to perfection, and your chips are gonna be homemade, and you found the best potato, and hopefully you have them on board, and you just prepare them in the best way you can. And this is you're not gonna have always the chance to show how talented you are, or how not talented, but how skilled you are.
Yeah, I think
with preparing amazing food,
on the
because
yacht
sometimes they just kind of want a tomato salad, and
it's one of
that's something you have to
challenges
accept.
for somebody to wrap their head around, especially if you're coming out of a Michelin star restaurant and you're used to making perfect tasting menus every single day. And then suddenly you're going into somebody's home, and especially if they're a family, and they're just like some cozy meals, and life is not just luxury tasting menus every day. And then you have to become really, really good at those what might just be looked at as some simple family style meals. But as you said, there's still that edge in finding the best possible way of making a burger. And actually it's funny. Like yesterday. What I described earlier, my friend and me, we were geeking out about pizza flour.
Yeah.
And we were we were playing around with the pizza stone temperature, and then we noticed that, the third pizza in the temperature of the stone changed. Mm-hmm. So we were taking out a laser thermometer to checking how much the temperature changed. And that's obviously that might be slightly on the edge, but this is how you also deliver a consistent and amazing product.
Yeah, but one of the things you mentioned as well is that, about all the small things that you would do in a Michelin star restaurant, all the time you're going to spend on the, diced tomato and parsley, julienne, and all these things that you just don't have time, because you go from, a team of, 2, 4, 6, 10 in the kitchen, 20, 30 in a big restaurant, to just you. And once you're on the boat, and okay, you can be a head chef and you can have a sous chef that can cook for the crew, but you can also just be alone cooking for crew and for guests, and you're going to have to do everything. And when everything, I mean everything, it's, you're going to have to cook breakfast for the guest. And then as soon as you're done with that, you have to prepare the crew for the lunch for the crew and make it as good as you can, because these guys are your friend, and you want to take care of them. And as soon as you're done with that, you have to rush and, just print the menu upstairs on the computer. So then you can present to the owner and his wife to see if they're happy with the menu that you have chosen. And if you get a chance, you have to run on a tender and possibly go to the market to get something else that you're missing, or, just to get some fish for the evening. And you come back, and it's just, there is so much to do. You don't get, usually you can stock up a lot before the season on the boat, but that's going to be dry store. And that's going to be maybe frozen items. But you still have every 2-3 days, depending on the size of the fridge, 2-3 days, you have to load up on, veggie, fruits, and, dairy product and fresh herbs. And if you just happen to be on a boat where, you have 10 guests and they choose to have fresh veggie and fruit juice every day, like, you're going to see your stock just diminish every day. It's gonna reduce so fast. You're gonna lose everything in just one breakfast, and then you just have to order everything or go pick it up in the shop. So this is something that the time it takes to actually, from start to finish, the days on the boat can be very, very long, because you have to do everything yourself. And I didn't mention cleaning yet, but it's in there in the middle. As soon as you prepare something, you have to clean everything, and just, your floor has to be spotless, and the bench, there's nothing on it. And it's something you learn very, very well in a Michelin star restaurant, I think. But once you become your own chef and you become alone in the kitchen, this is when you have to just, not only make sure you do the right thing, but also keep yourself motivated and keep pushing. And it's sometimes it's a little bit hard, because when you work in a restaurant, you're following a menu, and you may be lucky to work in a restaurant that never do the same thing, because they work on tasting menu, or they work on, carte blanche menu, and there is nothing set, and every day we change depending on the market. But on a boat, there is never a menu, and you never do the same thing.
So
it
you don't sounds have to, very challenging. So you really must love it, no? It's like, everything you're saying is like, okay.
Yes. No, but maybe I'm just telling you the challenge of it. But there's also the other side of it, which is, like I was saying, you often don't have the budget. So when you need to buy some equipment or some produce, you can get it, and you can just play with it, and you can buy it before they come and practice a little bit and create something and try and give it to the crew, ask them for feedback on what they think about it. This is amazing. And the places you're going to be able to see are also amazing, because usually, there's always a little gap for you if the boat is in the south of France and you go to Capri in Italy, there's going to be a gap for you to go to the market and see have a coffee at the local place, and go to the fish market and go buy some focaccia and just experience the local life. And that's if you have guests on board. But there's also time when let's say you are on a boat, and the next trip is going to be in Greece, in Corfu, and chances are the boat is going to be cruising toward Greece and arrive 3 days before, just to be ready to wash the boat, to get all the supply, the water, the fuel, all these things, which means you possibly have 2 nights that you can just step off the boat and go explore the local area.
What has been one of the best places?
This is incredible, because you basically
really
getting paid to travel the world and to discover.
Nice.
I think, 100%. There's 2 places. The Galapagos.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I went there the first time, and I was so happy to be there. I could see, this giant tortoises and the sea lion and all this incredible wildlife, which is, I went diving. I went with some of the guests, and we went diving, and we saw the hammerhead sharks, and this was incredible. I would never put this on my bucket list to go there, and I got to see it. And when I went there the second time, I was as impressed, and I didn't expect that I was ever gonna go back, but
Oh,
I
wow.
managed to do it twice,
Yeah.
so that was good. And we did a few years ago. We did a season as well in Alaska, and this was in July or August, I think it was. It was late August, and this was incredible because we had an amazing weather, and we went, we parked the boat in one place because you couldn't get too close to the glaciers, and so we had to take the tender and go see the glaciers. And then we did the guests would always go off the boat every day. They would explore part of the city or part of the land, or so every day they would take some of the crew with them. So one day was a trip on a seaplane, and if you're lucky if it's your day, you go on a seaplane and you go see the bears and the wild bears. And the next day they would they would just go on a tender and go to the main city, and then you end up on the tender ride, and you see the killer whales around you. It's incredible. I remember this place where we were actually cruising. It was the evening. It was about 6 o'clock at night, and we were cruising between these two peninsula, and it was getting narrow, and it was surreal. We had the guests were on the top of the boat. They were on the sun deck, and they were playing this music, which was like, I can't remember exactly what kind of music it was, but it was really interesting because as we were getting closer, it started to rain, but it was also sunny. So you had this kind of like rainbow happening, and then you had what you call a super pod of dolphins around us. So you had the sea, you had the sun that was glowing, and you had like thousands, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of dolphins just cruising around us, just following the boat.
Yeah.
And this was incredible. And it's not something you can do on holiday. This is just, we had to be there at that time, at that exact instant. And this is things you would never see in a kitchen and this is the travel. But then you have the financial reward as well, which is higher if you save your money, and if you're careful, you get paid better on a boat. But I feel like you get paid better because they take you away from home. This is the price to pay to not be home every night and to not see your family. So this is something, it's not for everyone, but it's so you have the travel, you have the financial advantage of this, and you have the connection as well. I mean, you're going to get to work with people from all around the world, and you get to work on these sometimes giant boats that are owned by, we're talking about the richest people on the planet. And if you're the chef, you get to interact with these people. You get to, maybe not for long, maybe for a few seconds in the morning, just to show them the menu. Or maybe you're going to go on a trial in their house and, cook for them so they can actually validate that you're the right chef. And then you get to sit down at the table with them and just have a glass of wine and talk about, food. And I never thought I would be in this position, when I was working in France or when I left for the UK. Yeah, this is part of the benefit of working on the boat. This is thing you would not probably experience in a restaurant. So I think by getting yourself out there and then trying to do something different, and then really, really, really grinding and retrying to get your CV, to make it the best possible, get a good photo, get some good photos of your dishes. And even if you have to cook just to take those photos, do it. And if you don't have a website, it's fine. Just get an Instagram account and show off what you can do. And this is I think the first few steps to get on a boat.
Yeah. You mentioned the benefits of the salary, the financial rewards a little bit. What would you say are like the differences between the different regions? Like someone sailing in the Mediterranean, is that similar to what you would get in the US overseas?
I think yes. So as a chef on a boat, there's a funny thing because you can find a 30 meters yacht that will be looking for a sole chef, and somehow they're gonna pay 3,000 euros a month. And then you're going to find a 50 meters and they're going to pay you 5,000 euros a month. And there's this strange correlation of length of the boat and the salary, which this is not always the case, but it's sometimes doesn't make too much sense. There's a few reasons. I think one of them is what a boat can afford, because not everyone has billions and billions of dollars to just pay the crew on the boat and to, pay people. So they know they have to pay the average salaries if they want to get someone and someone qualified. But there's also, it depends on the boat. It really depends on the boat. But the location doesn't matter. If you're in the Mediterranean or if you're in the Caribbean, the thing is, there's a big chance that this is the same boat that would spend, from May to September. They would be around
you said that,
the Mediterranean. Yeah. So they would be around the Med in the summer, in a European summer. And then when comes November, early December, they would cross the Atlantic and get into the Caribbean and start their winter season there. So this is the same boat. So then, if you're doing charter, if you're renting the boat, of course you may charter in euro or in pounds or in dollars. But the salary you get if you employ on a full time, it's always going to be the same. And then it doesn't really matter. Like I think it's like a private chef job. It's not where you're working, is who you're working for, and if they value your job as a chef, and if they know how difficult it is to find someone that really can deliver what you want. And the location is not so important, I think, because you gotta keep in mind this boat, they're moving. Some of them are moving all the time. Some of them, they just go around the world on repeat. And
yeah. So, Chris, this has been super interesting. I mean, this was really a deep dive into the yachting industry. Is there anything else that you would like people to know about, where you're like, this is really the essence of what we're doing on the yacht?
What I can advise people is, if I actually published a book a couple of years ago, just during COVID. So it's something I was working on for a few years, and COVID actually gave me a bit of time to finish it up. It's a book that is called the Yacht Chef Guide, and it's basically, it's not a very big book. It's basically everything I've learned and everything I thought I could tell someone, a chef, about the yachting industry. So it covers anything from where do you find provisions and how do you find a job and what do you have to do and what is it to be a yacht chef? Like, what is your job? What is your responsibility? What should I expect when I work on a boat? What should I expect when we do a crossing the Atlantic, and all these topics? So this is really essential, I think. The book was published. I used a pen name to publish the book because at the time it was just a choice for privacy, because at the time I was working on the boat and I didn't want to bring attention to me or to the owner of the boat. But it's under the name Tim Dellea, which is this is the pen name I used for the book. And I think if someone really wants to know anything about yachting, and if they think about becoming a chef on a yacht, they should read the book, and they will find out everything they need to know. I think they would go from knowing nothing to knowing most of it, and that's what I can say about people if they want to become a yacht chef.
Nice, I like it, and I'll make sure to add it in the show notes so people can easily find it. Chris, thank you so much for making the time. Where can people connect with you if they want to, just connect with you on a personal level, or connect with Moncler Chef to potentially become a yacht chef themselves?
Absolutely. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn under Chris Dellea. I'm sure you can put the link also on the description. I think LinkedIn is probably the best. And if you want to know a little bit more about the Yacht Chef Guide, it's the yachtchefguide.com, all in one word. And I'm really happy to have had the chance to talk to you. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us at the Private Chef podcast. If you know any highly skilled chefs that want to take their life to the next level, make sure to share this podcast with them. And if you enjoyed this episode, click subscribe and check out our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening.